Okay, so this is, behind this door is where dreams go to die and mediocrity begins. I should paint that part. Okay, as you can see, that's the sound of the dogs coming downstairs. Girls, stay there, back there. Goodbye. Thank you. So this is a special panel I had made especially. It's, as you can see, it looks like it's just a ceiling panel. Of course, it's not. We'll start. Okay, let's look over here. I'm going to try to not jiggle around. So this is the studio. It's a combination studio and, little kind of place that a person could have a nap if they needed to, too. I don't know who would want to do that. All right, so that's the basic layout. So let's start from the left here. These are old Sansui speakers with 15-inch drivers in them that were always considered a joke in the old day, and they still are. There's like 5 speakers in there, including a horn, which is hilarious. So that's that. They're just really bright, and they got lots of bottom. The cool thing is when you're listening to bebop jazz or any kind of good jazz, the stand-up bass sounds like it's in the room with you, which is really cool. Got this little old, is that a 600? Anyway, I put a different speaker in it, painted it green, of course. It brings out that particular color in the music. There's some really bad art by me. There's a Gemini liftoff. I'm a NASA geek guy. The mandatory Christmas lights for sure. Here's a Princeton kit, which a friend of ours put together. It's really good. It's point to point. It's like a real 60s kind of a thing. Here's this old little Quebec-made piano, which is neat. The cool thing about it is it's really sharp in terms of the brightness. It really cuts, and it's almost like a tack piano. So that's really cool. Yeah, I really like that. Anyway, then this is the keyboard from an old pump organ that Tony, my longtime musical partner, amongst many other things, he's a piano technician, and he fixed up this old pump organ that he salvaged. And I went back in time and got this pump organ from the 1800s, I believe. And so, but I had it for a long time, and I couldn't. It took up a lot of room, and I tried to use it. I have sampled it, so that's good, but eventually I tried to sell it, couldn't sell it, couldn't give it away, and so I eventually asked him if I could just sort of part it out to myself, and so that's supposed to be a waveform, whatever. This is where it all started for me a long time ago in the 60s with one of these TC-106s. We had one of these, and that was the beginning of sort of recording things, and listening to stuff and recording radio stations, etc. And I still use this as a guitar. It's just got a really neat distorted sound. Here's a Harman Kardon boombox, which really is handy for sorting out bass, too much bass and stuff like that. There's the other Sansui. There's some other bad art. Here's one of the most fascinating characters of the 20th century, a master of 3 art forms, theater, radio, and movies, and also an exceptional actor. One of the most interesting people that you could ever, if you know anything about Orson Welles, learn it. A truly great artist and a fascinating guy. And just watch the first 7 minutes of Touch of Evil. So here's another piece of bad art. Here's a Tascam 38, which I use for drum mixes. It is neat to see what that does to a drum mix, for sure. Just a cheapo Behringer, it works just fine. A Marantz, what is that? A 2230, which is 30 watts, which drives my Sansuage. Below this is one of those Leslie's without the amp in it. So it's just a speaker with, of course, the Leslie motor. And you just run it just like a speaker cabinet. It's really great. I love it. Yeah, it's got a very subtle effect, or profound. I run it out of this Bugère, which a friend of mine is just lending me to. Just it's a decent amp. It's a tube amp, and it's just it's good distortion, sound setting. It nothing wrong with that at all. Good Chinese tube amp. I don't spend a lot on gear. Here's a Rode NT1, which it's a little too sharp in the high end and a little too much bottom. But it works just fine for just me doing my day-to-day. I've got a little boom, go to my the AudioFuse Studio, which I love. I think it's really good. Everything goes in the back of that. Then I have the Evo, the Audient Evo SP8, which it's really good because you push a button and it sets your levels. All my drums go through there. Then of course I've settled on many keyboards, but I keep going back to this guy, and I think it's my long-termer. I've had to alter the wood here to fit it, and anyway, whatever. It's a great. I just love it. It's got a good Whirly, a good Rhodes. It's got keeps your fingers warm with the tube thing there, and mainly it's a great. It's super heavy and awkward, so it makes it a great touring, performing keyboard. But the reason you buy one of these is because it has a real switch. See, that's why you buy one of these. It has a real off power switch. M1 Studio, which has lots of power, 32 gig, just, obviously a little, drive setup. I use Logic. I find for me, it doesn't matter what you use. For me, Logic is perfect for creativity, so-called. And if I was doing a million edits, I would use Pro Tools. But for what I do, it's all there, I have everything hardwired, so it's just instant. My ADD doesn't kick in. I don't have to do any sort of setup. It's just I get an idea and I can record it. These Calis work quite well. I had Yamaha HS8s, were they? But when I compared them, what I found was because they have the concentric mid-range. I thought for the same money, I'm getting a three-way speaker, and I found them so illuminating in the mid-range for vocals that I had to re-sing stuff. So I think that was a pretty good indicator. I used to play a clarinet and sax. I still muck around with them, and this is a nice horn I got. It's a LeBlanc. It's quite good. It's been fixed up nicely, and just sitting on a drumstick in there. A little tube amp thing there. This is for my inevitable stardom as a YouTuber. It holds the camera. This is my first car, which is a BMW. That's on the way to California in 1979 or something, just on my way to become a star. I don't think it worked out. I don't quite remember. And radio. This is, again, not just cheapo gear. Here's an Art, whatever it is, an MPA Gold. It's a tube thing. I put my bass in there. It sounds really good. I put my guitar through there, and I'm doing direct. They just work, They just work, Here's a Gretsch kit. I have a Gretsch. Oh, I don't know. It's probably 15 years old or something. It's a mid-lower line Gretsch kit, but it's lacquer, and you'll learn that I love lacquer and shellac. This is one of those cheapo Chinese mics, which if I painted it green and gold on the grill, it would sound a lot better. But I don't. This is a 5-pound weight and a clip, high-end stuff. Here's some eggs. They've gone bad, obviously. Here's my drum kit situation. Higher there. Basic, cheapo, but decent drums. So I've got a monitor that reflects exactly, mirrors exactly what I have over there. It's really handy when you're doing drums. My tom-toms, I've got them backwards, not on purpose, but just I screwed the piece of wood in backwards. So it's kind of neat because your roll goes, as opposed to, like it's like a Ringo thing. It's backwards. So let's go. The tom is only 16, but it works. Bad cymbal, cowbell, of course. I got some Sennheisers and AKGs doing all that stuff. 57, a neat old Premier snare, which I will show later. The underneath is just hilarious how it's overbuilt and strange. Cast hoops. It's from the 70s. Actually, I had a metallurgist come in and put this crack in. He's a Turkish metallurgist, I believe, though I never asked him. And we didn't speak the same language, but he put that in. It just gives it that Turkish sound. The combination, it's sort of it's Mesopotamia, it's yesterday, it's tomorrow, it's everything. So that's the drum kit setup. A couple overheads. This bass is just one of those friggin' basses. This is Tony's bass. And it just sounds great, Flat wounds. Listen to the flat wounds. Listen to that. Listen, you can't even hear it. That's how good it is. It's so quiet in its loudness, and it just sounds great. Auto harp for if you're doing a John Sebastian cover thing. Furtive attempts at sound deadening. Some more bad art. The big building, the Saturn V building. Piano roll from an old piano. Unfinished ceiling, of course, because there's a certain sound you get with that. I find that because you whack on some drywall and stuff like that, and then there's 2 layers of drywall, and then you don't finish it. It definitely gives you that sound that I think a lot of people are looking for. German helmet from World War I that my grandfather brought home. Just some plates when I was out west. A bad fold-out futon IKEA, a must for any studio. Louis Armstrong poster, which I still have to put up if I have to find a spot for that. I was raised on Louis, love him. That's the phone that Taylor Swift always calls me on. I don't know why. It's just one of those things. She's I can't explain it. And there's this beside it, which I don't know what that even means, but it means something. It's a schematic for a Lancaster, and my dad was in World War II. Here's one of those German overbuilt 12 strings that doesn't seem to mind that it's overbuilt because it's still warped to hell, but it's got 7,000 plies, which is really cool. It's art. It's wall art. Here's a bunch of books and albums. It's a Virginian. The Lamplighter. Bought and paid for. That's the story of my life. Naval Cadet. The Master of Valentine. Scarlet Runner. Yeah, just Tarzan and the Apes. That was pretty hot stuff. Well, we all know what that is, of course. It's just there because it needs to be there. And it provides certain feelings. Some more bad albums, some good. Here's some fellas that were pretty big in their time. That was taken off an old Junker Porsche that I found in a wreck yard when I was like 16 years old. Failure is not an option, or in my case, options are not a failure. Some stuff, music books, this and that, Dylan and Marx, that kind of stuff. This is an neat old Alesis QS6 keyboard, which is really good. I'd really recommend that. That's a neat little sound. Here's Wally Schirra. You could build a house on that face. When they walked on the moon, and what else we got back here? We got Neil Armstrong. Yeah. Oh, President Kennedy assassinated. All the latest news, and then there's the Beatles poster. Look at the price: $4.50, $5, and $5.75. Genius. Times have changed slightly. Some more books. This is sort of the library end, the culture end. That's from an old from a factory that my dad used to run factories for Firestone. Then there's just usual stuff here. There's a leather suitcase. Why? Well, there used to be a desktop there. One of the Cheese Grater Macs. That's a Mojave microphone. That's quite nice. I've got I'm starting to do a Tom Hanks typewriter thing. I don't know why. I like the color. Banjo, got the banjo for $50. Had to glue the neck back on. Works really well. From my favorite little spot in Manchester, New Hampshire. Then same thing here. I would never buy a black saxophone brass instrument. I think they'd look ridiculously cheesy, despite the fact that I would think that they would, kind of lock the horn down. But this one sounded so good. And it was $125 from Music Mill in Manchester. My favorite music store, guys. Go there. It's one, and I've been to all the freaking music stores in LA, San Francisco. I'm telling you, this is as good as any of them. All right. Picture of Pillow Talk. Obviously, it's got to be there. That was the name of our band, New Car Smell. This is, remember I talked about the pump organ earlier. This is one of the sides from the old pump organ. This is the guitar section. Can you see here? I know the camera work is driving you insane. You're doing really well to hang in here. So I made this guitar, not the neck, obviously, because that requires talent. I took this wood is from an old Douglas fir door that Jan's parents, my wife's parents, owned an old apartment building that came from 1915 or something like that when they built it. And so I just laminated a few pieces together and just copied a Strat. And you know what? It sounds fabulous. It's a great guitar. Tony found me some actual real, Fender pickups. That was the real difference maker. And it's a fabulous Strat. Then we got a 1965 Gretsch Country Gentleman, which is the real deal. It's like driving an old Buick, complete with the pad on the back, and it weighs 4,000 pounds. Great tremolo. Then this is a bit of a Frankenstein thing here. This is a 2017 Les Paul, one of the lesser sort of Les Pauls, but they're all made in the same freaking factory, in the same, assembly line. Guess what? It's mahogany, back and neck, with some maple on top. How bad can it be, right? It had these cheese ball humbuckers in it, which were really lousy. So I had these old P90s sitting around from the 70s, actually, and I just put those in. Of course, I had to fill in and then repaint it. I got some real good StewMac gold, paint, and then just to confuse matters more, I put on this tailpiece. It's just, and then what I did was I got it all heated up and I took it outside, and they're super cold. And it just got all cracked and cool looking, and I just whatever. It's a big fake, but so am I. I have no problem with that. Martin D28 from 1972. I got that when I was down working on the West Coast in the States, and see how I dropped that in. It makes me sound like I'm really cool. And there's a music store on PCH. See how I did that. And there was this cranky guy running the store, and I'd always ask him, hey, do you got any old stuff that I might fix up? And one day he said to me, yeah, I guess I do. And he brought up this old thing, and it was beat up, and I guess the lady, she owned it, and she needed $1,000 or something for a medical procedure. And so he said, you know what, I've had it for like a year and a half. You can buy it if you want. I don't think she's coming back. So there's a terrible tragedy of the guitar, so, I was instantly, drawn to it. Apparently, actually, I just saw a picture. She is alive, so I'm not making that up. But it was played within an inch of his life for sure, and I fixed it up. But since then, I've had to have it, the bridge came off, and a bunch of stuff happened to it. So I just went to a guitar guy, and it was so cool just to hand it over and say, fix it. I've done a lot of guitar repair in my life, but I thought, it's sometimes just hand it over and say it's your problem, and if you don't like it, you complain. So then that's the old fireplace, which I kind of have blocked off a bit. And then, I was told I had to get rid of some errant frequencies. So, of course, having no interest in actually exploring the proper way of doing that, I just put up a bunch of wood. And I thought, well, why not just have some fun with it, make it a little bit of piece of art. So all I did is I took these little pieces, and these actually all vibrate at different frequencies. I have no idea what the frequencies are, but some of them that's actually a tone. That's ridiculous. That's the same frequency as the Pyramid of Giza. Listen to that. That's to the bottom of the keyboard. These are neat. So, these actually will theoretically move, but for no reason. But it was there's a fly swatter, which, because it's got little holes, it helps diffuse. It's really good. A bunch of junk and melodica. That's not as good as the Italian melodica I have, but it's okay. Cheapo microphones. Picture of my son, one of my sons, cheapo microphones. And that, I think, is about it. Yeah, so apologies to Andrew Masters for copying his idea, but I thought, I just wanted to show what, the low life do, this is the chair, and there's the rug. A lot of people are wondering about, what kind of rug do you have, do you use it for solos, that kind of stuff. The chair makes a lot of noise. Listen to the chair. It's a completely ridiculous chair to have in the studio. I agree. I like tobacco, and Audix there works good. But I like Logic, not personally but professionally. And this is my little world. And I would say to you, to you young folks, forget about the gear. It's easy to say, right? Now that you look at all this gear I have, but there's not a lot of money sitting here, really, and it's just about what's going on between your ears. And anyway, that's it. Thank you for indulging me. I appreciate it. And maybe I'll do another one sometime. Peace out.